wanted to make a quick video talking about something that I think a lot of people still do, which is doing like a 3x10 or 3x12 whenever it comes to working out. And I think if you're a beginner, that's not bad. You want to mitigate the amount of things that you have to think about when lifting, because when you're starting out, it's hard to just balance the weights sometimes, and I completely get that. But if you're getting towards that beginner to intermediate or that intermediate to advanced stage, I think that the importance of not doing 3x12 or 3x10 goes up. My reasoning for that can be explained with why 3x10 or 3x12 is bad. So if I pick up 45s and I'm doing those on like a dumbbell flat bench, and I do one set and I go to 10, that maybe is pushing myself pretty hard. Let's say I'm, one away from failure, okay? And then the next set, I do it, and then I'm at failure, and then the next set, I'm past failure. So you essentially are having to, every single time that you do 3 sets, underestimate how much you can do for 1 to 2 sets so that you don't overestimate how much you can do for 1 set. Because you can't go past failure, especially if you don't have somebody spotting you, right? So because of that, 2 of the sets that you do aren't going to be as difficult as the last one. And ideally, if we're training to get as much growth as possible, more bang for our buck, we want every single set to be pushed hard or very, very close to as difficult as we can make it, right? So with a 3x10 or 3x12 approach, you're pretty much saying, well, my first 2 sets are kind of a warm-up so that my last one can be the good one. And that just doesn't make any sense. If you're doing warm-up sets before you do your 3x10, you don't need those first 2 sets to be that way. So how would I approach it then? Or how would I structure it for somebody if they want to train and they don't want to do this 3x10 approach because they've learned that it's maybe not the most beneficial? What I would do is I would pick a weight and I would do that weight for anywhere between 6 and 12. Depending on the muscle, might want to go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, especially if, doing the low rep range starts to aggravate your back in a movement or maybe your elbow, whatever else, right? You might need to go a little bit lower weight on something just because of your specific scenario, and that's perfectly fine. Anywhere between 6 and 12. Do that weight for 6 to 12. And then the next time you do it between 6 and 12, do it between 6 and 12. Now, the number that you aim for is anywhere in that range. It doesn't need to be 10. It doesn't need to be 10, 10, 10. Because if you're doing 10, 10, 10, again, like we've talked about, not every set is going to be equal in terms of you pushing yourself to failure or close to failure. So if I do 1 set and I get to 11 and I was like, man, that was really good. I was probably 1 away from failure. The next time I do it, I shouldn't be able to reach 11 again, because if I pushed myself 1 away from failure or to failure, I shouldn't be able to replicate that. I shouldn't be as strong the second time I do it compared to the first. So maybe the next set looks at like 9 or 10 reps. Okay, then I was maybe at failure, 1 away from failure. And then the next one's at like, 8 or 9 reps. Okay, perfect. So I just did 3 different rep numbers, but I pushed myself equally as hard on each of them. And that's what you should ideally do. You should push yourself as hard as you can on every single set, or close to as hard as you can on every single set. And because of that, your rep numbers are going to change because you're just going to be tired after the next set. So that's what I would do. And then when you're tracking it, if you have, a notebook or an app or whatever, instead of just writing 3x10, it would be 3x 11, 9, 8, or whatever the 3 numbers come out to. And then the next time that you do that, you would be 3x, let's say 12, 10, 9. You went up 1 each time. Awesome. But now we've hit 12. What do you do whenever you hit 12 or the top of your specified rep range? What you do in that situation is that you up the weight. So I said for this example, I was doing 45s on the dumbbell bench, or you or whoever is doing 45 on the dumbbell bench. Then you're going to up it to 50. Now, a 5-pound jump on each arm isn't no small number. It's not a small amount of weight that you're increasing. So we might be in the lower end of that rep range. We might not be going for 10 reps on our first set. We might be going for 8. And then it's going to look like 8, 7, 6. Or it might be, 9, 8, 6, whatever it ends up being, right? We might be at the lower end of that rep range, but that's fine, because guess what? As we increase our ability to do that over time by eating well, training efficiently, sleeping well, hydrating, every single time we go back to the gym, we should be getting a little bit stronger, even if that's half a rep every single day. Then by the time, a couple weeks rolls by or a couple workouts, those 50s, we're going to be hitting for 12, 10, 9, or somewhere in that range. Guess what? We're going to go up to 55s. That's how you should be progressing if you want to maximize your gains or you just want to train effectively. I don't like this whole, maximizing, minimizing, doing like the perfect thing, because I feel like that's very broad depending on who you are. It's very person specific. But this is a good template for you if you're trying to get into training or you're trying to enhance your training in some way, instead of doing 3x10, because you're wasting those 2 sets by not pushing yourself as hard. And I shouldn't say wasting. You're still getting growth from it, but you're getting less growth. So taking an approach where you try and push yourself to the same relative exertion on every single set, but the reps are different, that's the approach that I think is a better approach overall. You're going to see more growth, and that's the approach that I myself take. So if you find that insightful, let me know. If you try it out, that's great. If you want help with that, reach out to me. I do coaching. Otherwise, just DM me, ask me questions. I'm always open to talking to people about this stuff, clearly, because that's kind of my passion. But yeah.